Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about RAP architectures. In the previous video, we have covered ABAP Cloud and development tools such as ADT, new ABAP language features, right, and AML, and finally the CDS views. Okay, so let's explore how RAP orchestrates all these components and help us to create a enterprise grade cloud-ready applications. Okay, so let's get started. So first we will see what is the evolution of the ABAP programming model. Okay, so this will give you a rough idea how the ABAP freestyle programming model has been now evolved to the RAP end. Okay, so first we will see the on-premise side, right? The ABAP platform, which is lesser than 7.5 version. Okay, so typically this could be like if we go back like 10 years, right? So we will be doing this kind of a development very frequently, right? Which is called as a classical ABAP programming. Okay. So what we do, we create a very freestyle. There is no restriction. There is no best practice, right? So we create a ALV reports. So we create a function models, right? We create a transaction codes. So we were doing a lot of GUI based developments there. Okay. Then slowly there is a web development evolved. So the SAP came up with this and WebDin Pro, basically slowly the CDS started evolving. So the CDS, I would say, like the CDS is the one of the backbone of the SAP's technologies, which helps to innovate a lot of features. Okay, so based on the CDS, basically we consider the CDS as a core, and so based on that, a lot of new innovations happened on the ABAP programming model side. Okay, so it's basically a fundamental foundation of the ABAP programming model. Okay. And the second thing is ABAP platform 7.5. So this was happening like from 2015 to like 2018 or 19. So where a development model called ABAP programming model for Fiori. It's basically a so that time like Fiori were Fiori were more popular, and users started moving from GUI based user experience to Fiori user experiences. So everyone wants their application to run in on the front end, right? So as a Fiori. Okay, so that time, like there were a couple of frameworks came. One is purely like purely like CDS based development. Okay, so basically you can create a CDS view, and there is a annotations, right? You can define annotations, basically the OData annotations, which generates service definitions, and you can expose the data to the Fiori simply, right? It's basically a CDS based OData exposure. The second thing is SUGW project based development. So which help us to basically the CDS based OData development is which only for the reading purpose, but we have to modify the data as well, right? So we use SCGW based development. Okay, like project based development, which is I would say like this is what heavily invested SCGW based OData development, right? Yeah, this is what heavily invested by the customers, and you could see lot and lot of custom developments were done with this SCGW. Okay, so the superset of SCGW is something like BOPF came up. It's like business object processing framework. Okay, so this is basically a previous version of like ABAP programming, sorry, RAP programming model. There are few reasons, like BOPF has been discontinued after some years by the SAP itself, and SAP asked us to move from BOPF to RAP as RAP started evolving, which is more clean development basically, and we can create a cloud ready application using RAP. So that's why the push was happening. So BOPF wasn't quite familiar that time. Okay, so they can do the RDS based exposing the CDS views. This is also like can be done with the SCGW projects, right? Then all this OData service, you can expose the data to the SAP Fiori or SAP UFI. You can do the custom development in the UI side, right? So this is basically called like ABAP programming model for Fiori. So you have to know like CDS, BOPF, SCGW based development to handle the objects in this ABAP programming model for Fiori period time. Okay, then after like 18 or 19, the SAP BTP or cloud platform came, and we have a dedicated system for ABAP environment like CAP. So here only the the ABAP cloud and RAP came into the picture, right? So people started RAP as a uh, go to framework for creating a transactional applications. It's super easy to create a transactional application using RAP, right? And after some time, like SAP decided to keep this RAP in S/4HANA cloud development and on-premise S/4HANA system as well, right? So I'm not sure like 1909 has 1909 has SAP RAP features, but RAP framework feature, but I would the proper working features I heard is like about 2021 version. Okay, uh, probably like the 2022 version has the proper RAP features. So if you want to, if you have the S/4HANA system about 2022 or 2022, then you could create a transactional applications using RAP. So all the features available, complete RAP development can be done. Okay. So basically RAP means what? It's basically ABAP RESTful application programming model. So this is what, very popular nowadays, and it's been like more than 7 years, right? So still it's popular, okay, and it's getting popular as well. So, and what are the objects will be there in the RAP side? So it's very clean. Like you will have you don't have multiple technical things, like here you have BOPF, SAGW, nothing. So everything has been discontinued in the RAP version. So the RAP is one framework is enough to create a complete transactional application. You don't need to know about BOPF, SAGW based development, right? So if you know the CDS view, that's the first thing, and you need to define a behavior definition and implementation for transactional logic, right? Then you create a business services, right? And data will be exposed, then you consume it in the SAP Fiori and SAP UFI. So basically you if you want to expose that data, you might be using the OData annotations, right? OData.publish true, right? So this is what you will do. Otherwise you will be creating a SCGW project or maybe a BOPF projects and expose the data while creating the service definition and service binding. But this is not recommended nowadays. Like if your system supported business services, you will have to go with the business services default, right? You like, even though if you're if you're creating BOPF application, I think BOPF application, if you're creating, like you can go with like business services as well, but do not create a BOPF application from the scratch. If it is, you can go with first thing. So using a RAP, you can do the service development. What is service development? Okay, so if you want to expose some data, right? So we would be getting a lot of this kind of a development, right? These days. So you need to expose data somehow like to the third party system or maybe a cap to consume in the cap side. So you need to expose the S/4HANA data to that, right? So you can use a RAP for service based development. Okay, so what are the services we can do? So you can first expose data for SAP Fiori UI services. So you have a SAP Fiori UI and you need a data for that, you can expose it from using the RAP. That's one thing. Second, web APIs and local APIs. So web APIs is something like if you want to consume it in the different system, not UI, which is in the different system. Okay, so basically like cap. So you want to consume some data, some sales order data in the cap part. So you can go ahead with creating the web APIs using RAP. Okay, and local APIs is just for consuming locally. Okay, within the ABAP environment itself, within the same system. Okay, and there is something called events. Okay, so this event is based on the event driven architecture. Okay, so second, universally usable programming model. Okay, why this is called universally usable programming model? So RAP will be applicable or um, maybe fit for the new applications and the old applications. So how does it fit for new and old, right? Consider you are getting a new requirement, or from the data model you have to create, from the data model application logic, UI, everything you have to create as a fresh fresh applications, right? So this is, we call it as a greenfield development. You can follow the greenfield development. So greenfield development, we can go with the managed approach. Okay, we will see what is managed in a minute, but creating a new applications, this is what it's highly recommended. Okay, second is brownfield development. What is brownfield development? Let's say there is a old OData services are available. For X service has been created like to 5 or 6 years back using SCGW based project, right? So now this SCGW based project, it's not a cloud ready, correct? It's something will work only on the on-premise side. Okay, so and user customer won't have this application as a cloud ready and they want to use it in the BTP side. So in this particular case, you have to, first option, you have to write everything in all the logic in this all the logic, complete application logic in newly, and you have to go with the greenfield development. Otherwise, there is second option is, let's say if all this that all this business logic, right, for the old applications, which is perfectly working fine, right, and you want to just wrap this up, and in the wrap, you just write a wrapper logic, okay, and you uh, just consume this old code, okay, you are just consume old code in the wrap, and you are exposing this new services. So this is the another option actually, okay. So mostly if the application code is working fine, and customer is okay with that, or client is okay with that, then you can definitely go with the brownfield development approach. So where you should focus on only designing the wrap, BO and CDS views, whereas the application ABAP logic can be reusable. Okay. And third thing, available in the cloud and on-premise. We know that very well. So SAP RAP is available in BTP ABAP environment, and it's available in S/4HANA Cloud and on-premises editions as well, right? So overall, RAP is for creating a efficient enterprise-grade application development. Okay, then let's see the big picture of the ABAP RESTful application programming model. So let's go from the data model. Okay, so data model, we know that it's SAP S/4HANA, right? And if you are writing something in the database layer, you have to use this SQL and SQL script part, right? But mostly, so there are two things here. We have already seen this in ABAP Cloud Map slide. So there is domain specific implementation. What is this domain specific implementation? So first thing is you have to define a model. So how do you define a model? Domain model basically it depends on your requirement. Okay, so first you have to define a model using CDS, entity, wrap, and business, and you can define a business object using this, right? So this is just a definition. It does not contain any logic at all. Okay, how do you write a logic? There is something called domain specific logic where you can write a logic using ABAP and CDS. Okay, these are the two main programming languages in the wrap. Okay, third thing, once you developed everything, you will be exposing the data to the UI or web API or different system that can be consumed. So one is UI services, okay, for SAP Fiori and analytical clients. Okay, analytic clients, it could be anything. It's kind of a SAC, which is basically SAP's analytics cloud. It's a SaaS product actually by the SAP. Then it can be done via the OData protocol. Okay, you can for UI services, this is the only way. So if you want to do the integration services, basically you have some OData services which is an on-premise system, and you want to consume it in the BTP ABAP environment, like in this case you can use this integration services, and you can consume OData development from the different systems. Okay, or you can use business events also, but if I don't know, I don't think so, like on-premise supports this. But if that, suppose you can use the business events also. These are two-way communication. So OData based web APIs, you can consume the data, right? Or else like you can use the business events as well, right? Yeah. So this is basically for a systems to system communication. This is UI services for the end user and the applications, the backend. Okay. So yeah, finally you will create once you expose the data, you will be creating the app in the SAP Fiori applications. Okay. So that's a whole big picture of it. So maybe let's go into the next part. So what are the major concepts here? Okay, so main very important concepts in the wrap is business object. We can call this as a the backbone or maybe heart of the wrap also, right? So why this is very important? Okay, so for business object, if you want to define a business object, you have to define a three components mainly. Okay, one is data model. Okay, second is behavior, and third is runtime implementation. Okay, so a data model defines you what are the columns what are the columns, what are the what are the entities do you have in the particular business object. Okay, so basically this will be done with the CDS view. You can define a data model using the CDS view always. Okay, so what are the options are available? You can define a compositional tree, or if you're creating a compositional tree structure, it's basically hierarchical structure. You will be having something called root node, parent node, and child nodes. So root node, parent node, child nodes. For example, if you have a travel is the root node, right? Travel, and what do we have? Bookings, right? Booking is the child entity of travel. Then booking supplements also that. This booking supplements is the child entity of booking. Okay, so basically I can show that quickly the relationship. For example, here, okay, I'm the service binding. This is service binding of the travel application. So you have this main root node entity, and it has an association to booking. Okay, this is the child entity, and this booking has another child entity called booking status and booking supplements. So this we call it as a hierarchical structure. So we can define this using a CDS view. Okay, so we use a composition relationship, and we can define this. So I can show the code also, but it will be little confusing for the people first time seeing this, but I don't want to show it now. Okay, so but just consider this is the data model we defined using the CDS views. Okay, so second thing is, okay, do we need a data model alone is enough for a business object? No, we need some kind of actions, or some kind of a performing thing in the business object, because business object is not only for a read-only purpose, right? We will be doing modify the data, we can add actions, we can add functions, we can add a lot of things, right? So that's why some kind of, it has to do something, right? Behavior is that's behavior we will be do with BDEF. BDEF is called behavior definition. So the definition, data model definition will be done data modeling. So the behavior definition will be done using BDEF. Okay, so BDEF is the RAP core part, okay, where we define the behaviors, how our application should be performed. Okay, so whether you want your create, read, update, delete, or you want actions or functions, or you want to define logs, e-tags, authorizations, then features control, draft handling, everything. If you want this, you can add it in the behavior part. Okay, so remember, just data model just for only reading purpose, like I mean the serious view definition, right? It's only for the reading purpose, reading the data. But if you want to modify the data, you have to create a behavior definition for that. Okay, that's the second component which we needed for the business object. Okay. Third thing, the runtime implementation. What is this runtime implementation? So the definition of the the create, read, update actions is enough. No, we need to implement this, right? We need to write a logic for that. If I have an action, then definitely I need to write a action, that particular action implementation to this, right? So that is why we need a runtime implementation. So which is again written using the ABAP, which is basically behavior implementation. It's purely on object oriented. You will have a classes, right? So this classes will be having, the local classes inside, like you will have a global class. Inside the global class you will have something like local classes. So these local classes will have, will generate from the RAP interfaces. So that's how these classes will be executed. I think I have showed these classes already in the previous videos. So yeah, here the main thing is there are two phases. One is interaction phase. Interaction phase is just for modifying the data, reading the data from the buffer. So you will have the default transactional buffer available here. Then the save sequence phase will be will be for dedicating the database related operations, right? So let's say like if you are using the managed approach, so what would happen is this interaction phase, this transaction buffer, save sequence phase, everything will be taken care by the framework. So we don't need to write any single logic for that. Okay, but in the case of unmanaged, okay, we will see that what is unmanaged. So we have to write a logic for save sequence and interface logic, and even the transaction buffer. This complete thing we need to do it. Okay, so so this is something very different here. You will have to like when you are defining the behavior definition, so then you can decide whether you want to go with the managed or unmanaged. So based on the managed and unmanaged, you will have a runtime implementations accordingly, right? So perfect. So these three things combined into a single unit called a business object. So it has a lot of entities, collection of entities. It has a collection of behaviors, and it has a right implementation which needs to be executed when certain actions or certain features it's getting called, right? Yeah. Okay, let's dive deep into the business object runtime implementation. We have seen two things, right? Interaction phase and save sequence phase. So interaction phase is basically for modifying data or reading the data from the transactional buffer. Why we are reading from the transactional buffer, right? So basically you cannot read to improve the performance, right? So you cannot read every time from the database table side, right? So what you need to do, when you're first reading the single instance, you are just taking the data and you keep it in the application buffer. That's modernly we call as a transactional buffer. You keep it in the buffer. So when the next time, if the same data has to be read back, so instead of going to the database, you can read from the buffer. So that's the simple buffer concepts. We need to know before we go into this transaction phase. So you know what is transactional buffer needed for this, right? So in case if you want to update it, for example, like if once it is read and you want to modify the particular data, you can just update the data in the transactional buffer directly instead of going to the DB level and just updating and doing the commit work and all those things, which will again doesn't improve the performance much. So that's the main reason that transactional buffer came here. So whatever you read, whatever you write will be performed in the transactional buffer. Okay, and you may ask when this will get reach the real DB, right? So whenever the commit work or rollback, so this statements is triggered, right? So that is where the transactional buffer will will take us to the save sequence phase, where we have some certain methods, okay, like finalize, check before save, adjust numbers, save, adjust numbers, and all. We will be using it for numbering, late numbering, right? So you will be assigning the late numbering. Check before save is for the validations, right? Finalize is for finalizing the calculation, like determinations and all those things. Save is dedicated for saving the data to the database tables. This is how many database tables we have, right? So this is what the overall overall behavior of this complete VO runtime. Okay, so this could vary in two ways, okay, depending on your implementation type. So you can define a managed or you can define an unmanaged. Okay, so when you need to go to the managed, if you're creating a new applications, right? So you need to use the Greenfield development, right? We have seen what is Greenfield development. So if you're going for a new application, creating something from the scratch, then we can go with the Greenfield developments. And this is called as we have to use a managed implementation type, right? So this with the standard implementation, like what is the benefits here? The standard CRUD operations work out of the box. So the create, read, update, locking, all this technical things, right, will be taken care by the framework. In fact, the interaction phase will be taken care by the framework. Transaction buffer will be taken care by the framework. Save sequence phase will also taken care by the framework. So the end-to-end circle, right? So from here to here till it reaches the database table, right? One instance if you are creating and keeping in the transaction buffer and finally storing into the DB. So this complete transaction will be taken care by the framework. That's why managed is the manage. If you're creating something new, then manage is the best way to go with it. Okay. If technical things are taken care by the framework, then developer has focus on the business specific logics. I can write action, I can write some determination, validations. So based on my requirement, right? So that can be done completely by the developer. Still, we need to add this kind of a business specific logic because framework doesn't know that, right? So that's one thing with manage. So if you're creating new applications, go with the managed by default. All right. Second thing is unmanaged, so which is not quite popular because unmanaged is something like, again, you need to write some of the logic in this way. Like for example, in the interaction phase, if you are reading something, you have a read method will be available, which needs to redefined, and where you have to read the logic from the DB. Okay, so why this is basically why we have to do everything by developer here. Okay, so basically what is unmanaged when we need to go for it is a brownfield development. So what is brownfield developments? If some applications are already existing and client want the wrap way of accessing the applications, right? In this particular case, you can create unmanaged implementations, right? With the unmanaged implementation, for reading, modifying, you can simply call the old logic. Like for example, I have a travel, right? I have a travel entity, and which is already there in a form of class or maybe a function module or BAPI or something. Then while read method, I can simply call that reuse that particular logic, whether I can call a class or function modules or anything. So I could read those reuse those logic, and they can simply wrap up in our read method here. Likewise, if you want to modify something, you can do the same thing for modify, same for log. So but still we have to write the logic in terms of wrap field. Okay, so we are just writing a some kind of a adapter code here, where the wrap and your old code will be worked together, okay, as a single unit. Okay, so that so anyway, you will, if you are going with unmanaged also, you will create business services, your data services and everything. So this will be called again from your wrap and wrap BO. Wrap BO will be calling your old logic, and it provides the data based on that. Okay, so likewise, the transaction buffer should be definitely already exists. Okay, so your existing code should have this format, like it should have the interaction phase properly, and transaction buffer should be working, and save sequence phase as well. Okay, and storing the data to the DB. So everything should have already. If not, then you have to definitely reform your or restructure your current logic, like in terms of this. Then you can bind it to the wrap behavior implementation classes. Okay, so with application code for interaction buffer and save sequence, developers in charge of BO runtime, CRUD operation, even the basic CRUD operations you need to take care. Okay, adapters needed to integrate the existing code. That's why I call this adapter. So you need to create an adapter which integrate with the existing code to the wrap applications. Okay, so I hope it is clear. If not, just let me know in the comments if you need to clarify something. But this is very important. You have to choose whether, if you're creating the new BO or behavior definition, you have to choose whether it's a managed or unmanaged, right? Okay. So let's see the business service. Okay, what is called the business service? Basically, you are exposing the data, right? So what are the services types are available? What types we need to choose for what? Okay, let's see that. First is service scope. Okay, service scope. There are three things here. One is service definition. Okay, you will be creating a service definition where you will be like providing the information of which entities. For example, I have the service definition here. Okay, not this one. Let me open it. So I have a service definition here, and it defines clearly like what we are exposing, whether what are the say view I need to expose. I need a travel, I need a booking supplement, then other value help or related views, everything I need to expose to the UI. So this is the way we can expose the entity. We can only expose the entities from the services, and it can be consumed in the UI, or maybe if it is created as a web API, it can be consumed in the another systems. Okay, sorry. Second thing is BO projection view. What is BO projection view? It's something like, which columns you need to expose. Basically, this is basically, let's take this one example. Okay, this is called as a projection view. Okay, this is a projection view. You call this as a projection. This projection on travel M. So here you will have what are the columns should be exposed. So all the information will be available. Okay, and behavior projection. I'm sorry. I think this BO projection view is different. Behavior. Okay, wait. This is clear, right? So behavior projection. What are the behavior we need to expose? Like for example, create or read, update or something, right? So that can be done. So this is a behavior projection. Okay, this is this is a projection BO, and it has it just expose this create, update, delete. Also, it exposes the actions and also the associations to create. So these 5 things has been already exposed to the UI. So if you don't create the behavior projection, or even though if you create in the base BO and don't expose it here, then it will not be available in the UI or different system. So you will have to definitely create this 3 kind of service scopes. One is service definition for exposing the entities. Second is BO projection view, which is for what are the columns you are exposing, and behavior projection is called which behavior, right? Okay, then what kind of a protocol we can use? It's okay. So we can use OData V2, right, and V4. Okay, INA like is something like information access, which is kind of heavily used for analytical query purpose. Okay, you create a analytical CDS views and use this INA like information access protocol, and this can be consumed in the SAC, right, or on any other popular SAP's analytical clients. Okay, actually, you don't need to define it in the V4. You can use information access if it is supported. Okay, and SQL is like you can create like for example, you want to expose something as to the different systems. Okay, as a SQL, like via SQL they want to consume it. That is a different here. Your data V2 is based on HTTP based protocol, but SQL is normally like you can consume something. For example, if the database is there within the system, you can use a SQL and query the data, and you can use it, right? So what if the particular database is in the different systems? So there are 2 ways possible. One is you have to create a some kind of OData V2 or V4 protocol, right? And then via this OData V2 protocol you can consume the data in the current system. But there is another way of binding, service binding here. It's called SQL. You can write a simple SQL query, right, for the database which is present in the different system. Then scenario. So you will have a web API, UI, analytics. There are 3 things here. If you what kind of a scenarios you can create a web API which third-party systems can be consumed your data. Then you can create a UI for user like Fiori or any other UI can able to consume your data. Analytics. So you, for example, SAC can be able to consume your data and it prepare analytical screens or analytical data or insights, right? Yeah. So these are the scenarios for the service binding. Okay. Then Web API lifecycle. What is Web API lifecycle? So this is basically Web API means like you can consume the data in third-party systems. Okay. So what are the life cycles are available? You can release the API. Okay. Which once you release the API, then only the third-party system can able to consume your services. Okay, then versioning. If you want to upgrade to the new version, you can create a V2 or V3, V4. You can go ahead with any number of versioning here. Okay, then deprecation. Deprecation means if some columns or some entities are not going to use it anymore, like you can set the deprecations. You can use annotations. Okay, and it will be deprecated in the deprecated and it will not be shown in the consumer systems. Okay. Finally, tool support. There are two tools supports are available. One is UI services. For UI services, you will have something called Fiori Elements Preview. So we have already this. Maybe like I can quickly show. So for example, here I have a preview range. Maybe I need to use the travel actually. Give me a moment. Yeah. So if I just click on go, you will get a travel data here. Okay, like a lot of data are. If I select some travel data, you will have a booking detail. So this is our booking detail. If I select this, you should have the booking supplements tables here. Right, so you could see the hierarchy, right? This is the hierarchy. So booking supplement the child entity, and travel for travel booking is the child entity, right? So travel is the root entity here. This is the complete BO structure, right? Business object structure actually. Okay. This is one way of testing, or if you are creating web APIs, right, that is also possible. You can test it. I'm not sure, like I could see like this is available by default, but not sure where to load the definitions. Okay, there is some issue with here, but I'm not sure. But this is a Swagger way, which is very helpful for testing the API. You don't need a Postman or any other tool for testing it. You can run it in the web browser itself, and you can test it actually, test the API. Okay. So that's all here. Okay, perfect. So then, yeah, that's what I mentioned. For web API, you have a Swagger UI preview for that. Okay. Right. So Fiori UI and web API conception. So So what are the things can be helpful for Fiori UI? What are the things that are helpful for web API? Okay, so for UI annotations, we define a UI annotation, right? Like you for example, like we have opened this CDS view, right? And it has like these are the UI annotations, right? Which help you to create a UI screen based on that. Correct. So this is really required for the SAP Fair UI, and also the value help. Like value help is really needed if you want to see the foreign key values or something, right? If you want to select that, so value helps are really needed. Dynamic feature control. So it's one of the features in RAP behaviors. So you can hide, or you can hide a button, or you can hide a column from the input, right, from the user to provide an input. So dynamically you can do this. Actually, you can do the static also, you can do the dynamic. So this will be applicable only for the UI. Okay, it doesn't record much for the web API side, right? And draft, if you're creating something and you want to keep it in the partial result stored in the DB, then you can go ahead with this draft handling. For content ID for complex, so this is a batch record. So this is not required for the SAP Fiori UI, because the Fiori UI already handling this by itself. So this is something is very helpful for the web API side. So what is this batch request? You can basically combine multiple requesters in a single batch, and you can send it. So let's, for example, if you want to create a travel booking and booking supplements in a one request, so you can do this via the batch requesters. So where the content ID will be really helpful. Okay, so because you doesn't know that the travel ID until it creates, right? But you need to create a booking supplement. So that's why the content ID really helpful. And also the releasing, versioning, and deprecation is not even required for the Fiori UI, right? But for web API it's really needed. So in case of backward compatibility, we need to use the earlier versions, right? So that is what the release, versioning, deprecations will be helpful for web API. Perfect. Okay. So finally, we'll see this development flow quickly. How you can create a RAP artifacts, right? RAP objects. How you can create a the RAP applications, right? So what are the steps? So consider you have the application tables already available, or if not, we need to create the application tables, right? Then you, on top of that, you will have to create a CDS data model. Basically, there is a way we can create it, but mostly it will be something like a format of iView, RView, and CView. Okay, so this is just an overview development flow, how this would happen, or how we need to create it. So on top of that, we need to create a CDS view. Then we need to create a project, some of the columns to projection view. We have seen what is projection view. Then we need to define a scope, right? We need to define a service definition. What are the entities we have to expose? Then finally we will define a protocols and how we can expose the data, right? So if you want to add a rules, we can add a rules here. Okay, and if you want to preview it, we have just seen how we can preview it via the ADT, right? So yeah. Second thing, if you want, so whatever we have created, it's basically for the read-only data, right? So we have created only the CDS views, and we haven't added any behavior. So for modifying the data or transactional behavior, we need to create a base behavior definition on top of this, or maybe with the reference of the CDS view. Okay, then on top of that, we will be projecting the behavior. We have seen how we can project behavior projection, right? So where we expose the create, update, delete, and everything, all those things, right? So this will be dedicated for the managed, not managed, like modifying the data. And when you're defining the CDS view, you can go with two things, like you can define a managed and also the unmanaged. Okay, so when you want to go the fresh one, you can define a managed. When you want to reuse the existing code, you can go with the unmanaged scenarios, right? Also, like the implementation class, you need to create it, and here is your real logic will be placed, right? Real business logic will be placed, and if you want to test it also, you can do a unit for that. And also here, the unit can be done for the service level scenario and integration testing. For the service level can be done for CDS views. You can write a dedicated A unit for that. Okay. Then CDS roles and authorizations. So you can create a DCL for that, for for CDS for authorization checks in the CDS level. Okay. But for the behaviors, we have to write a dedicated authorization logic. But this authorization object and definition will only for the CDS view. Okay, it will not affect the behavior side. Behavior side, you need a dedicated authorization checks actually. Okay. So this is the complete flow of the development. Do we have anything else? Okay, next is draft handling. Okay, I will leave it here. So we have covered so for what is RAP, and what is BO, what is the RAP big picture, what is BO, right? And how do we define a BO? There are three components out there, right? One is data model. Using the CDS, we will be defining the entities in a compositional tree structure, correct? And for implementation, we define behaviors, right? And also like BO runtime, we have two phases, right? Interaction phase and save sequence phase, correct? And we dive deep into the interaction phase and save sequence phase with managed and unmanaged implementation differentiations. So for again for real or fresh applications, it's going to be you always use a managed implementation. For existing code, if you want to reuse, then go with the unmanaged applications, unmanaged implementation, right? Then we see about the service, like service scopes, web APIs, and all those things, right? And finally, we have seen what is the development flow for it. Okay, this is the complete development flow. You can create a first read-only applications. Then, if you want to modify data, you can create a behaviors on top of that. Then, if you want to add a testers, like you can write a unit test and integration test as well. Okay, so that's about this in this video for now. So in maybe in another part 4, we will discuss about like draft handling, extensibility a little bit. Okay, so I'll maybe stop it here. So in case if you have some questions, please put it in the comment section, right? And yeah, so thank you for watching, and have a great day. Example.